We're dissecting a batting masterclass today, featuring Babar Azam and Kevin Peterson to uncover the anatomy of the perfect pull shot and, well, mastery over the short ball.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the footage of Babar facing extreme pace, the most striking detail actually happens before the bowler even releases the ball. Because most people assume, hitting something moving that fast requires aggressive forward momentum. But Babar utilizes this very subtle pre-shot shuffle, setting up a purely neutral baseline.
Right. It looks incredibly similar to a tennis player landing a split step just as their opponent serves. Or like a martial artist dropping into a neutral stance. His weight is just perfectly distributed, he isn't leaning over his front pad, and his weight isn't stuck on his heels either.
Exactly. And that central balance physically prevents him from overcommitting his weight early. I mean, the batter has a fraction of a second to read both pace and line. So if the bowler delivers a slower ball, a batter who has already shifted their weight forward is, well, they're trapped. Because Babar's base is neutral, he retains the ability to adapt. If it's slow, he just holds his swing back and rides it down.
Let's actually pause on that, writing it down, because I want to make sure the mechanics are super clear here for everyone listening. By keeping his center of gravity perfectly upright, rather than falling forward into the bounce, he can soften his grip at the last millisecond, right? Like using the angle of the bat to absorb the ball's energy and push it harmlessly into the turf.
Right, yeah, he diffuses the kinetic energy entirely. But if the ball is fast and short, that exact same neutral base allows his hips to immediately pivot, transferring all that rotational power to pull the ball hard in front of square.
The biomechanics are so sound. But, mimicking a stance is very different from executing it under fire.
Yep.
I know Babar grew up idolizing A.B. de Villiers, specifically copying that very straight, upright posture.
Oh, absolutely. You can see AB's blueprint in his setup. And it's a stark contrast to a player like, say, Ricky Ponting. Ponting's legendary pull shot relied on a massive, wide stride. He compensated for that wider base with almost superhuman eyesight, picking up the ball's trajectory incredibly early.
Yeah, that wider stride works if you have Ponting's eyes, I guess. Babar adopted the de Villiers model because the tighter, centered shuffle maximized his specific reaction time. But this brings up a massive gap between practice and reality. Building a stance by copying your idol in the nets doesn't really explain how a batter maintains that centered, frozen calmness in a match.
Well, it requires a major psychological breakthrough. For Babar, that trial by fire happened during a tour in South Africa. He found himself facing Dale Steyn and Kukiso Rabada on their home turf.
Oh wow, just brutal conditions for a touring batter.
Totally. Surviving that tour and actually scoring runs against Steyn and Rabada shifted his internal model. Once he proved to himself that his neutral trigger held up against Steyn on fast South African decks, the intrinsic fear of the short ball vanished. The mental block was just gone.
The psychology falls into place, sure, but there is still a physical training gap there. Pitches back home in Pakistan are typically much slower and lower,
Yeah.
They do not simulate the bounce or pace of South Africa. So how do you actually train the reflexes to safely handle a Steyn bouncer before you step onto the pitch?
You engineer a scenario where the practice environment is actually more hostile than the match itself. Babar trains on shining marble floors instead of a traditional cricket pitch.
Wait, really? The interviews even describe him going further, pouring water over the marble so the ball skids off the surface at terrifying speeds.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but the wet marble creates an unnatural reduction in friction. The ball skids and accelerates upon bouncing, which forces lightning-fast reactions that far exceed match conditions. And they use plastic balls for this drill.
Because a real leather ball would be way too dangerous, right? The plastic stings enough to penalize a slow reaction, but it won't break a rib, allowing the batter to push their reflexes to the absolute limit without the paralyzing fear of a season-ending injury.
Exactly. And a crucial detail in the setup is the thrower. The person feeding the balls isn't just spamming bouncers. They deliberately mix standard, full deliveries with sudden, shocking short balls.
Which is brilliant, because if you know a bouncer is coming, you just lazily sit on your back foot.
Right. Mixing the length forces the batter to snap back into that perfectly neutral trigger stance every single time, because they have absolutely no idea what's coming.
It builds muscle memory under duress. By the time he walks out to the middle in a test match, the pace feels manageable. The game actually slows down.
Yep. Elite performance fundamentally requires that perfectly neutral baseline to avoid overcommitting. It demands a psychological trial by fire to cement your confidence.
And it relies on creating training environments that safely exaggerate the difficulty of the real world.
You want the training to shock the system so much that the performance feels like a step down in intensity.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on today. If a world-class athlete uses a flooded marble floor and a plastic ball to shock themselves out of complacency and speed up their reflexes, what is the wet marble equivalent in your own career or daily life? What can you introduce today to artificially spike the difficulty, sharpen your reactions, and make your real-world tests feel easy?